Hey Jay, I didn't see you there. Sorry.
Hey, I just joined.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was so quiet, and I was like, "What's that sound?" Welcome.
Hopefully, finally put Hillside.
Yeah, today it's a
on our
definite
list.
vote. It's gonna be a vote. It's gonna be a vote. Chanel, I have a question. We don't get the public members' numbers in the directory, right?
No,
No. Okay.
you don't. No.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Marielle.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, I'll be on video shortly. Just trying to finish
Mhm.
something up.
Hey, Bruce. Welcome.
Hey, Emily. Hey, Jay.
Hey, everyone.
Chanel. Oh, yeah, sorry, Bruce. This is my thinking face.
You look like you look like a what's that?
The
One of those
fishy.
goldfish?
Yeah.
No, Nemo.
Nemo's cute. Nemo's cute. I don't think I look that cute though.
Yeah, I know.
When I
Lynn
do
loves.
that.
We love Nemo.
Yeah. Chanel, I have another question. How do we go about like if people aren't active in a committee, like what procedure would we have to follow to like see if, because meeting quorum is a little difficult if we have to like meet the 1/2+1 and like one person or two people don't show up?
Yeah. Well, Bruce, you can go ahead if you would like to
No,
answer.
who just said that?
Oh,
I'm sorry?
Emily, I
Oh.
asked about it.
And somebody else said something, but I don't see her.
No, Chanel was about to start talking.
Oh, Chanel, you know better.
Yeah.
I mean, you can send like communications to the absent members, but if it's a persistent thing, then we would have to bring that to like the chair, and he would have to like see if he could restructure the committee in some way.
Okay, so we have two members that I haven't seen, or I'm not even sure if they're still in our committee, so if you could just let me know. Mariam James and Genesis Salas.
Yeah, they are still in the committee. Genesis Salas, we actually haven't seen her either. And we haven't heard if like she's like
1 second.
not on the board anymore, but yeah,
On-
she has been someone that hasn't been active since she joined. So I could see what the chair says about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Mariel?
can add that on Genesis because I emailed her a while ago and she said that she had like a class or something at the same time. And that was like back in January. And that's why she could never join the housing meetings. But I'm not sure about, in regards to other attendance. But yes, if you could check with Elias, that would be helpful, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll bring that up to him tomorrow.
Thank you. And then we have Maria Vieira. Oh, yes. Now I remember. So sorry. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Not a board member, no.
Right. I was like, wait, do I have the list wrong? Yes. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'll go on mute and take off.
Sure. I'll send a text message to the members.
So, hey, Emily, Tazo closed.
No wonder.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a weekday. What's going on? I thought it was the holidays.
No, I think he just gave up. I don't know the story, but I just saw it today that it was closed.
Oh no. Is he gonna sell?
I don't know. I don't know anything. Just saw that it was boarded up.
He really tried though.
Another small business down the tubes.
Yeah. Oh, he really tried.
Yeah. For a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How long was he there?
It's very sad to hear. We've got Adriana. Welcome, Adriana.
Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm Adriana.
Yes, we could
Yes.
hear you. Hi, welcome.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey,
Welcome, Michelle.
Are we there yet?
I'm counting now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including myself. We need one more. Usually we're like, where's Michelle? But now Michelle's here, and now we're like, where's Marshall? Or someone else.
I have just a quick question. It's okay if I send out some of the responses I've gotten from community members about the 37 Hillside?
Yeah.
It's just informational. Please do not discuss in the emails. It's just for discussion later, but we should not discuss via email.
Okay, awesome. Yes, thank you. It'll help us with our decision making. Okay. Let's see, I sent out a message. I do not have Marshall's number.
I might. I'll call him.
Oh, yes, please.
Excuse me, Emily. My
Yes.
colleague Randall Teray is having trouble joining the meeting.
Uh-huh.
He says the link isn't working.
Oh, it isn't? Chanel? Is there a way, do you provide the same link for all of the guests, for like a panelist?
Yeah, who has trouble logging in?
Randall Teray.
Oh, I just resent the link. Let me send it manually, like through his regular email.
All right, so Kimberly, welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, Emily. Hello, everyone.
It's a mess.
All right.
I don't have Marshall's number. Chanel, do you?
Emily? Sorry, just
Yes.
really quickly on Marshall. He reached out. He actually won't be able to join tonight's
Richard
meeting.
Allman's here. We're good.
Yes. And Kimberly too. Welcome, Richard. Okay.
Welcome.
Awesome. All right, so now we have, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members present. That's beautiful. And hopefully more people will be joining us as we go along. All right, so we're gonna start. 1 second to move all my documents on my screen. All right, so I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is 7:11. Okay, and I just want to give everyone a nice warm welcome to the Housing and Human Services Committee. The 1st of December, awesome. So just to do some introductions of the members first to begin. So I'll start. My name is Emily Marte, and I am chair/co-chair with Marielle. I've lived in Washington Heights about 30 years. I lived in the Bronx before that for just like 1 year, but this is my home. And I've been a member of the community board since fall of last year and just started as chair.
Shoot, man, now everything is freezing on me. No
Adriana,
way.
so sorry, we're gonna meet you. Okay. And yeah, so let me pass it to Bruce.
Thanks, Emily.
Mhm.
Bruce Robertson, lived in Lower Washington Heights, right above the cemetery, which is the borderline. Trinity.
Lower Washington.
For 22 years, and on the community board for a couple of years on this committee, and also transportation and traffic. Thank you.
Jay.
Hey, Jay Bias. I've been a new board member since June. Born and raised in Washington Heights all my life. And I'll pass it on to Aisha.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Aisha Ogilvy. I am a member of this committee for 9 years. I'm also one of the former chairs of this committee. I've been on the board for 9 years. I have served on various committees, personnel, nominations, youth and education, parks and cultural affairs for a short stint. And I'm now also on land use currently.
Awesome. Thank you, Aisha. I'll call on the next person, Richard.
I'm Richard Allman. I'm a resident of Washington Heights, a member of this committee. I'm not sure how many years I've been on the board, but it's something right around 10, maybe a little on the high side of that. Day job is running a senior center.
Thank you, Richard. Welcome. Marielle? Well, if you're ready.
Thank you. I was switching from my phone to laptop.
Right,
Hi,
right.
good evening, everyone. My name is Marielle Ali. I've been on the community board since 2020 with a short hiatus, but I'm back. Really looking forward to continuing to work with all of you, and I co-chair the committee with Emily. Thanks.
Good to have you back, Marielle.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Bruce.
And Kimberly?
Hi, my name is Kimberly McCoy. I am brand spanking new to the board, and I've been living in Washington Heights like about 25 years now. So I also worked in the Heights as a teacher. I'm very much entrenched in this community, and I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome. And Michelle?
Hey, everybody. I'm Michelle Lee. I'm also a member of Housing and Human Services Committee. I've been on the board for, I think, about 2 years. I've lived in Washington Heights for about 3 and actually grew up in New York City near Flushing. So yeah, excited for our meeting.
Awesome.
And yes, I can take the notes today too. So
awesome.
If someone can
Thank
send me the recording
you.
afterwards, I'll do the notes after. Yeah.
Yes, teamwork.
Shout out to Michelle.
Can I
Thank you.
just say something?
Yes, Bruce.
Michelle, the notes don't include the attendees for at least the video recording doesn't include who's attended. So I'll caution you to capture those names at this point. When I
Got
take
it.
notes, it's always frustrating because I say, well, who was at the meeting? Well, it doesn't show up on the YouTube video.
Oh, okay.
fair,
That's a
fair.
great idea. I'm gonna make that note.
Well, Michelle, you'll when Chanel provides the recording, she also provides the chat transcript, and so that
That's something
includes
new.
everyone
Okay.
there. Yes,
That's new.
but good point, Bruce.
Yeah, okay.
That's the truth. I didn't know
Thank
that
you.
in the beginning. Marielle told me about it later on. So yeah, we'll be sending you the Zoom information, and hopefully that's really helpful to do the notes and like the minutes and everything. And yeah, just let's continue with, oh yes, before I go on with the items on the agenda, I just wanted to bring up that we received the really sad news about Sally Fisher passing. And I know that personally, I've only ever heard her voice in community spaces and not really met her in person, but I always felt very strongly about what she said and the work that she put into everything and all her input. So I really just wanted to give her a moment, or if anyone wants to say anything about Sally Fisher, so that we could give a moment of silence afterward and then continue with our agenda. Don't know if anyone would like to say anything.
I would. So this is
Yes,
Aisha. They had a very beautiful tribute to her. I believe it was a couple of weeks back. I was very happy to see that she was there present. And just so many people from the community came out to express their gratitude, to talk about the many accomplishments that she has here in the community, specifically in our parks. But I spoke on the fact that I didn't really know Sally through her work in the parks. I knew her through the work on this board. And Sally was a force. And one of the things that I said there was that she was bold, courageous, fearless, but she also was a compassionate person, and she had no reluctance to speaking to the heart of matters, which wasn't always well accepted or well received. And I was very glad that I got the opportunity to thank her and to do so publicly, and, you know, to just tell her my gratitude. One of the things that I really appreciated is she's one of the 17 members that voted for a resolution that I've been fighting for 9 years. And I thanked her for the courage to be an outlier, the courage to stand outside of a force that is pushing against something. Because, and by the way, at the time I was chair when we were doing certain things, she asked a lot of questions then, and she asked a lot of questions when this specific Fort Washington Armory resolution came down. And some people were like, why she has to, and I said, just give her the answers. And she took a long look at all of the information, and when the vote came down, she voted in support of the work of this committee. So that's just to speak to the content of Sally's character. And I'm very thankful for everything that she's done for our community.
thanks, Aisha. And we have Richard.
Yeah, just a few words to add about a very warm and wonderful human being. I think if there's a model of what a community board member might be, Sally came as close to it as anyone I know. Passionate commitment to things that she thought mattered, but an ability and to focus on it, to do the work behind that, but the ability to listen as well as to speak. It wasn't just the words that she spoke, it was her ability to hear other people speak. And at the same time, I don't think I ever heard Sally talk about herself. She was always talking about issues, community, other people, and she will be sorely missed.
That's for sure.
Amen.
Amen, exactly. And I do see, oh, Marielle, yes.
Thanks, Emily. I've only known Sally for a very short period of time compared to other colleagues here on the community board, and it's through the community board that I met her. I didn't really have an opportunity, unfortunately, to work closely with her, but I would certainly echo a lot of the sentiments that others have shared here that I've observed from, you know, the way she has spoken up about issues at different committee meetings and at the general board meetings. Definitely, I think, an example to all of us in how we engage with the community board.
Yes, certainly. So she's definitely left a legacy and been an example for all of us. And I'm just happy that I got to experience that in this lifetime. So I'd just like to give a moment of silence, and then we'll continue on with the agenda. Okay, so thank you all for, especially for everyone who just shared a little bit about Sally. I'm pretty sure that everyone would have something to say. I'll continue with the agenda, and we did take out the Inwood project. They will be presenting in February. And we'll continue on with our first agenda item, which is for the variances. So I don't have the updated agenda in front of me. I think I have the older one. So we're going to get a presentation from Maria Vieira. Is it? So sorry, Mario.
No worries.
Or is it
Adriana.
Adriana Cabrera? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
It's actually, it's not Maria that's presenting, it's Randall.
It's
But I would love
Randall.
to present. Yeah, I'm just here to support Randall, and if there are any questions.
I'm so
regarding-
sorry. Yes, I remember that. Maria, you're with Randall. And then I was like, okay, so sorry about that. Adriana Cabrera.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we could
Yes.
hear
Oh,
you.
thank God. I'm having a lot of issues logging in and I'm on my phone.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay, so Marielle, she reached out and we got a response back for the Department of Buildings in regards to variances, because remember in the past, we had a lot of questions about whether or not we even had the jurisdiction or authority to give extension of hours and what the procedure actually was. So Marielle, she did the job and she reached out. We got some feedback, and Adriana is going to talk to us a little bit more about variances and how the process goes for the Department of Buildings. So thank you for joining us tonight, Adriana.
You're
And
welcome.
don't know, Marielle, if you'd like to say anything else before?
Just one other thing. Thank you, Emily. Adriana will also, because I believe there's some people in the attendees that are joining us for the other agenda item that Adriana will also discuss, which is the status of 705 and 709 West 170th Street. So that will also be addressed. But as Emily said, we're first, Adriana will first address the, the after hours work variances, the process, and so forth. Thanks. Over to you, Adriana.
All right. So good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry. I'm having a lot of issues logging in, as I mentioned, and I'm on my phone. I don't know if you guys are able to see me. I cannot manage this phone very well. It's an Android. I'm an iPhone girl. So I'm trying to just be here on time, and I couldn't, and I apologize for that. But as far as variants, developers are not as well, I guess as a courtesy, they can ask for letters of support to do after work hours. And but that letter is not gonna mean anything to us. they have to go into the Department of Building website and request an after-hour variance to see if they actually approve it. And there are some things that the Department of Building have to go through to see if they can approve this after-hour works. So they probably just asking for letters from the CV12 as a courtesy, but that letter is not going to serve them anything. They still have to go through the Department of Buildings to request the permit.
Great, thank you, Adriana. Could you talk a little bit more about what are the current hours that are permitted if an after hours work variance is given by the Department of Buildings to a developer? So what does that currently look like?
They can start working at 7 p.m. That's the earliest they can start once they granted the permit, and also work after hours into like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, the max, and the weekends.
So you're saying 7 a.m.
7 a.m. they can start.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, that is correct.
Until what time? 6 p.m. you said?
Into whatever time they are allowed to work. If they have like after hours to work in the afternoon, they also gonna be working into 6 or 7. 7 is the max.
Okay, and then after hours also includes
and
weekends.
the weekends.
Okay. And then for the weekends, are there limits? Like is it the same limit, the same hours that are for the weekday?
The weekend, I did not see any time limit, but I'm assuming, and don't believe my words because I didn't see at what time they are supposed to start. But if they are granted time for the weekend, it probably be like from 8 to 5.
Okay.
But I can confirm this with you tomorrow, and I can send Marielle an email with the confirmation of time for the weekend.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adriana. I think it may be helpful for all of us if you could also just talk us through. I know you said that the Department of Buildings does not require a letter of support from the community board to request kind of this after hours work variance. But if you could talk a little bit more about what is required from the developers, maybe are there any processes in place that the Department of Buildings has once an after hours work variance is put in place or given? So, does the Department of Buildings go and, check to make sure that they're respecting that? If you could talk a little bit more about that, please. Thank you.
Sure, yes. So once the developer get granted to do after hours work, they will follow the procedures, which is like they have to make minimum amount of noise. If they are making too much noise that is disturbing the tenants that are in that building, then it is a possibility that it might be canceled if they're not following the rules. There are also some equipment that they are allowed to use. So I have a list that I can send to you so you can share on the other meetings. I was gonna share with you, but I'm not able to log into my computer right now. So I can send that list of materials that they can use during the after hours variance. But they can, as far as noise, if we get complaints from the neighbors saying that they are making too much noise, or they are starting at a time earlier than the time that they were granted, then that's good. They can cancel the permit, the after hours work for the developers. Yes, so they have to follow the rules.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Emily, I don't have any other questions. Maybe we can open it up to the committee first for questions. And then possibly, I know that we have colleagues here from Riseboro. And then there may be people in the attendees, if they may want to ask questions, we can then go to them afterwards. But I'll turn it over to you, Emily.
Sure. Oh, awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to know also, let's say that we were to give a letter of support like they'd like, and then the tenants get to decide, like we can't decide like whether or not a person, a project can do like a trial run, right? Like you guys just get the feedback from the tenants. If the tenants are unhappy, you will
Yes.
check it
So
out or stop it
the te-
immediately.
if the tenant called 311 complaining about whatever is going on in that developer that is not supposed to be under the building's jurisdiction, then we're gonna send an inspector there to see what exactly is going on, and then we'll take it from there. So the developer can get a summon if they're not following the rules, you know, as in terms of noise, too much noise. If we get so the people that are having issues with the developers because they are not following the rules, so they are making too much noise, they can do a 311 complaint that will come to us, and then we take it from there.
Okay, so the tenants are connected to you through 311. It's not like a liaison or any of that. Like it's not a
Many
separate
of
person.
the complaints that we get is from some tenants in the area, or from the CV, CV. They send us like CV. I work with CV12, CV3, and CV5. So they come to us and they send us an email of whatever issues they are having with the developer of the construction that is taking place. And then we, depending on what is the situations, we send an inspector there to inspect, and then we make our decision to what is going to happen for the next step.
Okay, great. Awesome. And we have a couple questions. So with Kimberly and then Aisha.
So hi, my question is if it's starting, because I've seen some of the letters that they said that there was noise and it was, you know, out of the normal work time and it was really bad, but that they didn't do it consistently. One, how many 311 calls do they have to get before the DOB goes to shut it down? And two, if the DOB does shut it down, you know, let's say that they grant them the variance and they are allowed to have the extended time, but then it's seen through, you know, all these 311 calls and whatever proof they have, and they inspect it and they see that it's supposed to be shut down. How long does that take to shut it down?
The inspector should come over there within 2 or 3 days once we receive the complaint. And it's up to the developer to fix the problem that they are having. So they give, if they find neglect or something out of the common normal work hours, or if we find something that is wrong, then what we give is we give a summon to the developer or whoever is in charge of it. And they have some amount of time, let's say 2-3 weeks. Some of the summons that they get, they have to fix the problem immediately. So when they, if they don't fix the problem and the inspector go back in like, let's say 2 weeks to see if the problem was fixed or not, then they will get another summon. But many of the things that the developers do is they go to the court, they pay, but they don't fix the problem. And that's why they keep getting, you know, more tickets and more summon, because they're not fixing the problem. So they give them some amount of time. Let's say they give them a month, and if in a month the problem is not fixed, the inspector gonna go back and give them another summon.
But it's never shut down.
They will cancel. They will put a stop on the construction until they fix the problem. So if they work, if they continue working after they get the violation, then they're gonna be in a deeper problem. So if they get a violation for whatever reason, they are not supposed to continue working until the problem is fixed.
Okay, great. So moving on to Aisha and then Jay.
Hi. So my question is in relation to if proceeding an application for variance, if the developer is already skirting the rules of the standard allowances, how heavily does that weigh into processing their request for a variance?
Once they submit the permit, and the permit, once they submit the form requesting variance, then it will take them time because they have to show us like what type of equipment they're gonna be using and the amount of noise that they are gonna be making. All of that have to fill into the buildings jurisdictions. So if they don't follow the rules, as I said, then and we get complaint from the constituents, then that's when they're gonna get the summons. But as far as them requesting the variance, it will take like 1 or 2 weeks, depending on what they are requesting and what they need to work on.
Okay, but if they are already, because I heard you say, once a variance is allowed, you receive complaints or you find evidence that they are not complying with the requirements, that you can rescind it, you can prevent them from continuing with the variance, right?
Yes, if they are not following the rules, they will get a summon right as at the moment that the inspector finds the problems that the construction is having.
And so how many summonses do they need in order for it to be taken away?
If they get a summon and they fix the problem, the most important thing is them fixing the problems. It's not about them going and paying the summon and problem solved. No, they have to fix the problem. So it all depends on the developer. The developer have to fix the problems that the people in the community are having problem with. Once they fix that, they gotta give us the certificate of that they fixed everything. And then they'll remove the summon and they can continue with the construction.
So that's why I'm asking if before the variance is granted, if there's already violations of the rules, whether it be working according to the time that they're allowed or excessive noise or any of the things that you have listed, is that factored into your process of granting the?
If they already have a summon that they got because they didn't follow the rules, they're not gonna be able to get the permission back until they bring a certificate of corrections. Once they fix the previous problem that they had, then they can continue with the same problem, with the same construction that they were working on. But if, like you said, if they already have summoned and they haven't been able, and they haven't paid those, they cannot go back to the construction until they provide a certificate of corrections. Did I make myself clear?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aisha. Now, Jay?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Adriana, can you hear us?
Oh, but I think.
Oh, it does sound a little like it's breaking up a little bit. Adriana, you can hear us, right? Just 1 second, Jay. Technical difficulties. Adriana, can you hear us? It looks like she fell off. Let me see, maybe she's entering from another device. No, she's not. Oh wait, it looks like she's on, but Adriana?
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me? Yeah, I keep
Yes.
getting cut off. The signal is bad here.
Okay, okay. Hopefully it doesn't cut off again. Like
Yeah.
stand very still. Okay.
I'm
Now
by the
we have
window, actually.
yes. Now we have Jay.
Hi, Adriana. I have a couple questions. So when a after hours permit is given, how long does the developer or construction person request a time frame, or does DOB give a certain time frame for after hours permit?
There's no time frame. Once they requested the variance, they granted the variance, and they will let us know when they the time when they're not gonna be needing the variance anymore. But as far as giving them time, they don't give them time until probably they finish the construction.
Okay, so there's no process for a renewal if they need more time or anything like that?
No, if we getting a lot of complaints for the after hour variance, then that's when we probably gonna have to like start the construction until they provide a certificate of corrections. But as far as giving them some amount of time, no, it's depend on the development on how much time they need with the after hour variance.
Okay, and let's just run through the scenario if there was a noise complaint and DOB comes in, finds that we're working 30 minutes past the time they were allowed, and it was noisy.
Yeah, so if we get
how does
complaints, we need to get the complaints from the people in the community stating that they are working past the hours that they were granted, and then that's when an inspector will come and see if they are indeed working past the hours that they were granted, and then they will get a summons for that.
Right. So my question towards that, how does one get a certificate of correction for that?
They will have to, I'm not 100% on how the developers get the certificate of corrections, and I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So I can just send an email to Marielle, and once I get the correct answer, and then she can answer that question for you. But right now, I'm new in the job. I've only been there for a month, so I'm still in the process of learning. And so as soon as I get that answer, I'll email it to Marielle, and she'll provide you with that answer.
Okay. And I believe you mentioned earlier that when they do request for after hours, they have to tell you what equipment they'll be using.
Yes.
And if it is after an after hours permit, there's a certain level of noise they're allowed to do.
Yes.
How is that monitored? Like, right, as a regular citizen, I can't tell you that.
Well, if the noise is actually bothering the people in the community, and that's when an inspector go over there and they measure the amount of noise that they are making, and if it's past the limit that the Department of Building requires, then they will have to correct that.
Okay, Jay, is that it?
You got it?
One last question. And do the inspectors let the developers know that they're coming, or is it random inspection that they're not?
No, they come unannounced.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Jay. And I do have another question, and maybe you did answer it already, and this is just like a reconfiguration of what was already said. But let's say that we move forward with granting or supporting, giving a letter of support for this after hours variance, and then the tenants just absolutely cannot take it. And they're just like, we want to take this back. Like, I don't care how long it takes for them to do this building. It sounds to me that the only procedure that we have is only to like correct what they do in terms of noise, but not really like go back on it. Is that my understanding, or it's you could still be like, okay, forget it, you're not getting Saturday hours anymore, because tenants are really unhappy and they just prefer having, like, is that how it happens, or?
Not exactly. So if they are like excessive noises that the inspector find in the construction, or they doing like Jay mentioned, if they are working past the hours that they were granted, that's when they get a summons. But as far as that the tenant doesn't want this anymore, that they're not gonna take that into consideration, because if they already have the permit granted and they are doing the construction and they are following the rule, they're not gonna revoke the permit.
Oh,
Yes.
all right. And then Aisha and then Richard. Not sure, Jay, if you have your hand up again, or is after Laura.
Can you come back to me? I have to remember my question.
Oh, okay, then Richard.
Well, I hope I can do the same thing. I have a number of thoughts on this, but one thing I want to say first, I do have some concerns about going forward with this, but none of what I have to say is meant to cast aspersions on Riseboro, which is a credible organization, a consequential organization, and every bit of history that I know about Riseboro and its predecessor organization says there's a real commitment to affordable housing there.
Mm-hmm.
My concerns are more about us as a committee and a community board. I don't think this is the kind of issue we should be taking on, adjustments in a permit. A developer has come to us and said there are some economic consequences, but I sort of think, in a very respectful way, any developer worth their salt can make the case that there should be some adjustments in the permitting process that would serve us. I don't think as a committee, we have the tools to evaluate that, to evaluate at this point in the process, a developer's finances. I've also listened to the questions we're asking in the way that we're trying to fine tune this and understand any possible consequence. And I just think we're taking on a task that doesn't fit a community board very well. And I say that with much respect for all the people who are at Riseboro and all of us on this committee who are part of the discussion. And the DOB comments add to that, Riseboro isn't asking us for something that would take 5 years. And if there were something that went wrong, what it would take in the DOB process to try to fix it is probably longer than the request, or at least pretty close to as long as the request. So actually having a history working on affordable housing, an ongoing commitment to that, I just think this is something we ought to pass on. And if we have to take a yes or no vote, I'll lean towards no. But I just don't think it's an issue that fits this committee well. Thank you.
Yes, I understand, and that's very clear. It's up to you if you guys want to give them the letter. The letter doesn't serve anything to us, to be honest with you. It's just like that what the letter said is just letting the developer know that you are okay with the work that they are doing, but it doesn't serve us at all.
So I'm prepared with my question, and unless you want to go to Jay first, I'll be fine with that.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Aisha.
Okay, so first I want to ask, has DOB made any changes to its process since COVID started? Have there been any considerations, changes to how the variances are granted, how many variances are granted, the timeline of the variances that are granted? Has it been taken into consideration the changes that have impacted our communities, which has them more at home than would have been the case in previous years? I'm just curious about that, and then I'll say the next thing that I wanted to say.
Okay, so as far as that, as I mentioned, I just joined them. So I don't know how things was before I joined Department of Buildings. That's something that I can ask the people that has been there for more than 3 years and see if there has been any changes between COVID and now. And then I can send Mariela an answer with that question.
Okay. And that being said, I want to speak to what Richard said. I am familiar with the work of Riseboro. I actually found where we reviewed efforts by Riseboro in previous years for meetings that I chaired. So I'm familiar with the work that they do. I appreciate it. I don't know the split between Riseboro and who's actually putting shovels in the ground. Right? So if we are making an assessment of who's actually putting the shovels in the ground and how they're executing their work, it shouldn't be considered a judgment on Riseboro, is my opinion, right? That being said, on this board, what I have seen happen persistently that is of extreme concern to me is when it comes to certain issues, especially depending on our affinity for the institution, organization, people that we may be reviewing in our business, then there's conversation about the limitations of our power, the limitations of our voice, and the limitations on the work that we should commit ourselves to doing. And yet sometimes when it is something that is of interest to some in this community that seemingly has nothing to do with us, there's no problem getting involved in those things. So I just want to make sure that we are being fair and honest, right? And it was Alice Walker, who I consider a freedom fighter, who said, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they do not have any. Dialogue is powerful, right? And this community board and the community boards around the city is one of the primary ways that the community can access having a voice. They cannot walk into a DOB office and go pull up an exec and go pull up a director or anybody that has any influence or power or the ability to make a decision as easily as they can come to a community board meeting where we host and we represent them and we can together put together resolutions that then becomes a conversation with the city agencies, the elected officials, and other arms of government from the city level all the way up to the federal level. Name another vehicle where that is possible. And so by restricting what we can talk about here, when it comes to government, you are restricting the constituent access to have a voice. I just had that same conversation with Kathy, our first vice, just 2 days ago. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Aisha. And Jay, do you still have, was that an old hand or is a new?
No, I still.
Okay,
add,
go ahead.
So knowing that the opinion of the board doesn't matter, am I to understand if I, as a tenant next to a construction site, know that they're doing construction beyond their after hours and the noise issue is ongoing, my only option right now is to file a 311 complaint. Hope that when the inspector comes, they catch them doing it. And the best option for me would be going to my community board and sharing my complaint number. And that's how DOB would pay more attention.
I don't see.
I'm sorry, she left.
Yeah, it looks like She moved from the window. Let me see. Yeah, she's not on the list, so maybe she'll
Okay.
pop back in. Hold
Well,
on a second.
while that's happening, I'll just say,
Mhm.
she point blank said our decision doesn't weigh much on them. So they can just continue, they can just apply and just get the
All right.
variance. So,
Oh, she's back on. Let's see.
okay.
Adriana? You're on mute. Can you hear us? Let's see, she's probably getting situated. Hey, Adriana, can you hear us? And then we'll have,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can
Yeah.
hear you
Okay,
now.
thanks. Yeah,
Mhm.
I lost you for a minute, guys.
Okay. I just had, I was saying basically, based on what you're telling us, the board's opinion doesn't really matter. What matters here is if tenants near a construction site complain about noise. The hope is when they file a complaint with 301 that when an inspector comes, they'll somehow come with something to monitor the noise. And hopefully if the inspector catches it, they'll write a summons. But if they don't, the best option for, like, if I was that tenant would be to make sure I get the number of my 311 complaint and pass it on to the
Yes,
community board.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, and the community board can also reach out to us with an email letting us know that the community is having complaints about the construction and the problems that they are having, and give us details of what is going on, and we can send an inspector there as well. If a 311 complaint is not there, if it's not made, they can also go to the community board and complain to them, and they can reach out to us.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just say to the committee, I guess with that said, I'm in line with what Richard said in the sense of our opinion doesn't really matter, but we can help them if they need help. And so I would personally don't think we even need to take a vote on something like this.
Thanks, Jay. And then we'll just cut it down to like 2 more comments. I see Marielle and I see Aisha. So Marielle, would you like to?
Yes, thanks, Emily. Just a point for, I guess for the record, I understand that other community boards have been experiencing the same thing where developers have been going to them requesting letters of support for after hour work variances. So it isn't just, happening to us here at CB12. Not necessarily, making a point of whether it's appropriate or not, but just stating that it's happening throughout. So just wanted people to know that.
Okay, thanks, Marielle and Aisha, and then we'll move on to the next agenda item.
I just wanted to express that I hear what Adriana is saying in regards to how support or not from the community board is viewed from the DOB lens. I believe her. I'm unfortunately not surprised. And I also feel that that should not sway us, the community board, from deciding to take a position on a matter. Whether an agency cares that we have a position is neither here nor there, in my opinion. But if this is to set precedent in any way, think of any other issue or any other construction issue, right? Where if we have the opportunity to become advocates for our community, to say, well, here's what we're hearing expressed, and be able to put that down in black and white. And as an agency communicating to another agency of our government, saying, this is what we know about this matter, and this is our consensus about it. And then it develops that our consensus was true and had impact and was important. I believe that it would be important that we at least had taken that position. And we may actually affect somebody at DOB, whoever might be reading it, in their process of taking whatever steps they will to push things forward. That's my belief. I feel like we would be remiss in not taking a position.
Okay, I hear you. And also, I mean, just to agree, I definitely agree with this. I concur that we do have a voice, we do have a place here. That's the whole point of the community board and having this committee. We're the voice for the community. So that's the whole point of also having the public here as well. So if we have the public saying something, I feel like it'll, you know, be part of the decision of whatever's happening. So yeah, don't think that like whatever we discuss today or any other month doesn't matter. I think it does. And even though the processes or the procedures are a bit complex, and hopefully we ask the right questions today, at least we have more insight on how the procedure works and how we could, you know, speak for the community. So thanks for everyone who contributed. Just to move along, because we have a very jam-packed agenda, I'd love to keep talking more. Adriana, we're just gonna have Riseborough speak for 2 minutes. And then Adriana could close out with final comments. So Riseborough, if you'd like to, I see Randall here. Welcome. If you could just say your 2 minutes pitch, and then we'll have the public speak maybe, or no, Adriana close out and then the public speak. I'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this. I know that the last meeting the board wanted to get clarity and would be reaching out. So we, you know, you basically tabled your decision until you heard back from DOB. I don't think that we are looking to sort of, you know, say anything different than we said before. Our commitment is still to work with the community board. Our commitment is still to work with the neighbors and with the community, and to our goal is to have these Saturday hours that we talk about, these after hours, be interior work, as we said before. So there's not much change on that, and so I don't know. You know, this is you know, this was really, I guess, clarity for the board as far as from DOB, and this is what you said you wanted the last time at the last meeting. So I'm going to just step back, and the board will deliberate this issue, and we'll just step back and hear what you have to say.
And I see that thank you, Randall. And I see that we do have a comment from the public. So I do want to let the public speak, and then go ahead with that. Let me see. I think I saw Keith's hand. So let me go in.
Go with Michael first. I think Michael asked the question
Michael's hand
first.
first? So
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead, Michael. Let me
See if we can promote Michael. And Michael will have 2 minutes, and then Keith has also asked the question, and then we can give Adriana a moment to respond.
Michael, there we go. Michael Wolf.
Hi, everyone. This is Michael Wolf from the 25-35 Hillside Tenants Association. Hi, Adriana. Thank you for coming here and speaking tonight, and thank you for all the thoughtful questions from the board. My questions are, what is excessive noise? How is it measured? Does the inspector visit the adjacent building? And what time does the inspector come? Because 7 a.m., that's quite a wake-up call, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes, so they come to the site with a machine to measure the noise. And the noise will determine if the noise is too excessive. And then the inspector will take note on that and bring it to the office. And then they decide whether they're gonna issue a summons to the developers for the excessive noise.
Okay,
So
do
when
you know what the
they,
exact
it's very
noise level
important
is that's
that
excessive?
when they make a complaint on the people in the communities to let us know at what time exactly this is taking place. So we can send the inspector at the time that this is taking place.
Okay.
If they are in actions and they can take proof of what is being said in the community in regards to the construction that is disturbing the community.
I think we lost some of what
Did I answer your question?
I think she broke up in a part of that.
Yeah, so sorry, Adriana. It did break up a little bit. So if you could like repeat maybe the last part. I'm not sure where she got cut off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us? All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Michael.
Great.
Adriana, can you hear
There
us?
just was one thing, Adriana, which is what decibel level is excessive?
Not sure if she could hear
We've
us.
lost her. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Michael, I can, as Adriana will be sharing some documentation with me, which I'll then share with the committee members, I can ask her that question as well.
Thank you.
For reference, not a problem.
Okay.
Considering that we're moving into another topic, is it possible that she can call in so that we can have a more consistent conversation with her?
Yeah, that would be good.
I'll send her an email with the, Chanel, would you mind providing Adriana with the call-in number? Because that, I agree with Aisha. I think you have her contact information, and if not, I can follow up.
What number? I'm sorry.
To Aisha's point, which I think is a good one, if you can provide Adriana with a call-in number to the Zoom, so that way she joins us via phone rather than internet. So that way she doesn't keep dropping off, since there's another item to discuss with her as well this evening.
Oh, in the panelists like email, there
There's
are
a
like
phone
call-in number. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll touch base with her then and encourage her to call in. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. And we did have another, well, I don't know if it was a comment or question from Keith, but now that she dropped off, not sure if you still want to share, Keith. Let me just find the participants and we'll view. And allowed to talk. There we go. Go ahead, Keith.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, I wrote in the comments, and I'll just read what I wrote in case not everybody has their comment window open, which is just that Adriana outlined that they will review equipment, see what kind of noise, and if residents complain, and that buildings will summons and remove variances based on those complaints. But this doesn't take into account a number of things, including what I list here, which is that, you know, there's trucks coming in and out all day, there's equipment coming in and out all day, there's parking being taken, there's illegal parking being taken. They always block the hydrants all day because there's nowhere for them to park. You know, there's residents that are already complaining, and the way she outlined it, it sounded like there weren't. But the problem is that it's the same residents. It's me, it's Michael, it's the other people who attend this meeting. Everyone else that I spoke to, and I've spoken to dozens of people, they're all outraged at the building being built in the first place, let alone a Saturday variance. But we live in a neighborhood where people just believe, well, this is the way it is and you can't do anything about it. I mentioned in my comment here in the Q&A that I went to the last 34th precinct meeting and there were a dozen community members for every sector except this one, except this part of the neighborhood. For this sector, there was me. There was nobody else. And I was told that that's one more than the previous 34th precinct meeting. So, you know, when bodies like this board or agencies like DOB, if they're expecting people to complain, like I wrote here, it's like expecting your dog to explain the Pythagorean theorem. It's not going to happen. People just think they have no power here. And approving this variance is akin to silencing those people who already feel that way. Also, in terms of Michael's questions, even though Adriana's not here to ask them, Michael's a neighbor of mine. He's quite the intellectual. And the thing that I think he and I sometimes don't take into consideration when we're talking about measuring decibels and what this agency thinks or that agency thinks is that if you're just a regular person who's not engaged in the community like we are, and you're not talking to buildings and the board, you're not thinking about decibels. You just think you have a loud construction site next to you. You don't know what's too loud. You don't even know whether you're allowed to complain. It's construction that you didn't approve because you live here and you live next to it and you have no choice. The idea of complaining doesn't even occur to most people because it's construction. How would anyone think that they have any control over that? Your average person, like I said, who's not as engaged as we are, does not think to even complain. They don't know what is too late or what is too early. They just know they're being awakened and that it's frustrating. And this is what it's like to live in the city. You know, you'd have to be engaged like this community board is, like the regular people who attend are, to understand these minute details that someone, I forget who it was kind of getting at about whether or not this board is appropriate to make these decisions, because you guys have details that are important that the average citizen doesn't have. And then Riceboro has details that you guys don't have. And then the buildings department has details that the rest of us don't have. No one's looking at it the same way at all.
Thanks.
And I also think it's
If you could
insulting that we
just
have
wrap
to
it up
discuss this
real
for a third. Yeah.
quickly.
And the last
Okay.
thing is, I just think that it's kind of horrible and insulting that we have to take this up for a third time. I've made it clear in letters to you guys that I sent to Michelle Lee that hopefully everybody received, that details all the many times that they have violated their current plans and all the little details that have just been missed in these larger discussions. And the details are people are constantly missed. And I'm hoping that you guys and the Department of Buildings will take that into consideration continually.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And Michael Wolf for contributing as the representatives of the community. So, so sorry that Adriana, maybe she'll join us in a little bit. I did want her to still be part of the process. Marielle, I'm not sure.
The attendee list now.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
She has another name. Puff Puff Pastries.
No, she's there now.
Okay.
I'm not sure who Puff Puff Pastries
Oh,
is.
okay,
If that
okay.
person could kindly rename themselves. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I think somebody was in the middle of it was Michael who was in the middle of like asking Adriana a question. Adriana, not sure if you could hear us now.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know why I'm using my phone and I am not able to log in on my laptop. It says webinar, but I'm so sorry and apologize for all of this technical difficulty.
No worries. So I think you were in the middle of saying something and then it cut off, but
yeah.
Adriana, I just wanted to follow up and ask you if you know, what is the excessive noise level in decibels or however you measure it?
Yes, I do not know the answer to that question, but they definitely come there with a device that measures the noise. And if it passes the excessive noise that the DOB requires, then they will get a summon.
And then I think there was a comment by Keith that it was in regards to like when an inspector comes, but they don't really come while they're doing the wrong activity, which would be
Right.
something like working after hours
Yes.
or whatever kind of thing.
So
Not sure how you guys go
before
about
I
that.
cut off again, I was in the middle of answering that questions. And the most important thing that when you make a complaint, just let us know at what time this activities is taking place so the inspector can come at the exact time that this is happening so they can take the appropriate proof that this is actually happening so they can put it on the report and actually issue it as summons if they are not following the rules.
Okay. All right. And any other comments before?
I had just one additional comment, if that's all right, very briefly.
Sure. Very brief.
Following up on what Keith said about people missing from this equation. That's kind of the thing is that, you know, it's all well and good to create a complaint structure. And I'm not saying that's not a great thing, but at the end of the day, it's 3 years of unrelenting noise. And if you've ever lived in that kind of situation, you know what kind of cost that takes on your nerves. We, the Tenants Association, do not oppose this project. We oppose Saturdays and Sundays. We just want it to be 5 days a week. If we have to put up with it, which clearly we do, please, God, let it only be 5 days a week. Let us have our weekends. Please let us have our weekends. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you so much, tenants and Riseboro, again, for being here. And I wanted to know if maybe, Adriana, you have any closing comments?
Well, as I mentioned, if you are making a complaint, just please let us know when is this activity take place so we can send the inspector at that specific time. The inspector does not announce themselves, they just show up. I think it's defeat the purpose if the inspector actually announce themselves. So they go there unannounced to every construction that they go to, and then they take it from there, whether they're gonna issue a summons or not. If you have any additional question, please feel free to email me and I will follow up with this with a response. If I wasn't able to answer any of your questions, and I'm gonna follow up on the one that I said I was gonna follow up. If Marielle can send me an email with these questions, I'll be sure to reply with an answer.
Oh, okay. And Adriana, are you also going to speak about the other topic that we have?
Yeah, they want to
Okay,
know.
I thought it was another person. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Aisha, did you have a comment before?
I just wanted to remind the committee that any resolution that we write may not only be to the agency that we're addressing, that a resolution can also copy other members of government who have an interest in those matters and may also have influence in those matters. Thank you.
Okay, and Richard, real quick so we can move on.
You're muted, Richard.
Is there an appropriate vote to be taken? And if so, would you please define the question?
Right, so that was the question I was going to ask, because I didn't realize that the same person would speak about the same topic. I completely forgot. But do we take a vote before we talk about the HPD, on the AEP program? Marielle?
Yes, I think we should kind of close the book, so to speak, on this item before we talk about DOB and the status of 705 and 709 West 170th Street. which Adriana is kindly staying on quite long for us to discuss. I recognize it's already late into the hour and we have a few other agenda items as well.
So, right, so let's actually, and finally, and for once and for all, take the vote.
Would you just clarify
yeah.
what it is we're voting on?
So we are voting on the after hours variance for extended hours on the 37 Hillside Riseboro project. With the condition that they do only interior work on the during the extended hours, and that it's not going to be very disturbing for the tenants. Not sure if anyone else, does that sound like it's it to everyone?
And a yes vote is to support that extension.
Yes, so a yes would be to support the extension of the hours or for the after hours variance for Saturday hours. And a no would be, no, I do not want this to happen. I will stay with my 5 days, okay? So.
If I could quickly, I thought that it would be both appropriate and expected according to the emails that we have circulated, that the information and the letters that were forwarded to us were going to be read, or at least the summation of what they state should be stated here in the meeting so that the public is aware of those exchanges.
Right. So yes, since our last vote, which we turned down at the general community board, we did ask Riseboro to comply and just give us additional information. We had concerns, questions, and they did send us documents and also promised to stay engaged with the community while they are in the process of doing the project. Okay. So thank you, Aisha, for mentioning that. All right.
Not just
I think she was speaking to one additional thing there. If I understand correctly, there was an email sent by Keith Planet, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly, expressing his concerns with this. Based on having read that email, I think that his own testimony, speaking to the committee a few minutes ago, summed it up just as well as any of us could.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was more than one email addressing us.
Please be specific.
Mark Lee. There's an email from Mark Lee.
Sorry, just 1 second. Because this is being recorded, there were some individuals that asked not to be named publicly. So let's, just be mindful. But yes, we did receive some communications. Go ahead, Aisha. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. But just
okay.
If we just want to communicate the gist of what has been reported to us from those sources so that they are on record here as a part of the meeting.
Yeah, maybe Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, if you're able to speak at the moment, since Michelle's kind of engaged with some of the tenants.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm trying to put my child down, so I don't know how long I can talk for. So if somebody else can speak to them, that would be awesome.
Not a problem. I'm there with you. Any volunteers?
And these are to the email communications?
Yes, exactly. And just kind of being respectful of, the individuals that have sent the information, kind of the gist of what they sent. I'm pulling it up now. Okay, I guess I can speak to some of them just because for the interest of time. There was one communication from an individual that is asking the committee to vote no on Riseboro's request for Saturday hours. This individual shared a video with some dates and hours. It looks like the incident, according to the video provided, was at 8 p.m. And according to this individual, it was loud. And there's kind of images of some construction or kind of some work happening at the site. The same correspondence includes kind of, some information about the developers working past the approved hours. There's also some correspondence here about the fact that they've received already 12 to 14 violations and that they have not earned approval. Again, this is what this email says. That there's already a lot of noise in the area. It's a very crowded area. Again, kind of a quick gist is some of this is happening, even before 7 a.m. in some instances. Just trying to hear where else. So there's that. There was another email that was circulated regarding another community member that I guess doesn't live in the area but is familiar with the situation. In support of the tenants that are asking for the to reduce or not approve the extension of the work hours on Saturday. And I believe that this other correspondence talks about kind of setting up and happening at 5:30 in the morning, and just talking about quality of life issues. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much for sharing, Marielle, because that's definitely the voice of more voices from the community. So maybe that could help in the decision making. And Richard has a comment, and Michael, if everyone could just keep it brief so that we
I
could.
see Michael's hand up and would yield to that and ask to speak after him.
Okay, so Michael and then Richard.
Thank you, Richard. I just wanted to mention that Riseboro had promised to send us information about their plan about working indoors and what kind of work, et cetera. We never received that plan. And we're not engaged currently with Riseboro on any kind of regular basis. We stopped holding meetings with them after they came back to get this expansion of hours. We felt it was kind of a breach of trust. And so we're not meeting with them regularly anymore. So I don't know who they're talking about when they say community engagement. It certainly is not the tenants of 25-35 Hillside Avenue.
Okay, a couple of things. One, Michael, I will send you that information. Two, as you stated, you stopped the meetings. We were still willing to have the meetings, and then I called you, and I don't want to go back and forth, but I continue to try to have contact with you. And we've actually just recently texted back and forth. So I'm more than willing to continue to engage, as you know that.
But I'd have to trust you to do that, Randall, and I don't trust you anymore.
Okay. Okay. So I don't.
Gee Willikers, I guess, is all I got to say to that.
Okay. So I feel that that's a little harsh about not trusting. Every time you've reached out, anytime you've needed something, we've hopefully provided it. The last documentation, you're right, that slipped, and I apologize, and I will send that to you immediately. But as far as coming back here to ask for Saturday hours, we've always been clear that after a certain period of time we would do that. And
no, actually, you denied wanting to do that at one point. You said, no, we're not going to do that. And then
Michael,
2 months later, you came right back
one
with
second. Michael, respectfully, let's give Randall his 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then you can respond. And then if we can close out with Richard, please. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just because the meeting's a bit long. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't want to go back and forth. I absolutely respect Michael. And like I said, I will continue to, anytime Michael calls me, reaches out to me, whatever, I will continue to reach out to him. And if we want to sort of continue to have conversation and back and forth as far as, if there's something you need or if there's an issue on the site, please, you can still, you can still reach out to me. And the fact that, like you said, there's a trust factor. We can deal with that in another time. Thank you. I'm going to yield my time to Michael.
What I need is for you to not work on the weekends. That's what I need. That's what my tenants need. And as far as not trusting you is concerned, I'm sorry, Randall, it's well earned. I don't lose my trust in people easily, but I mean, you failed again and again to provide me with timely information in this case, to say one thing and do another, to make a promise of how long something will take, and then it taking way longer than it should. I'm sorry, but that's just simply I'm speaking from my experience. And I'm sorry that we've fallen out this way. I'm sorry that it's happened, but it's happened. I yield my time to Richard.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Richard?
I will call the question on the matter on the floor and ask for a second.
Okay. Seconding that was a motion, right?
Yeah.
Seconding a motion. Okay. And then, so now we do a vote and I do like a roll call. Is that
We need a second first.
Oh, was that Richard? Richard was the second?
You put the motion.
I wasn't going to object to what you were doing, but Mary Alice earned.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I second the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Shay.
sorry, I'm not used to that. Okay, so the motion was seconded and then we vote on it?
Well, the whole procedure is to vote on the call, the question, which is the agreement to close the discussion. I think procedurally you need to take the vote on the call, calling the question. And then depending on what that is what we do next. It is not a discussable motion.
Okay. So now being that we already discussed everything and spoke about other members and what they thought about the project. So sorry, Marielle, do we vote on this? Like I did the roll call or I had to like say everything again, like.
So no worries. As Richard, hold on. So the motion was to end the discussion, Aisha, just because we've discussed the matter at length. And so now it's for the committee to decide how to take this forward. Whether that is, to possibly put forward a vote in terms of whether the committee would like to write a letter of support for this project, write a letter of support, for Saturday hours, and then, or if not. And so that needs to be done.
So we are moving to a vote on the issue itself.
If someone puts a motion forward for that, I think we should. So that we can finalize the matter.
Yes, so I think I would like to put the motion on the floor actually to just, I understand that Riseboro is coming a second time. They're persistent. They want to finish the project. It's a very important project. And then we also have the tenant side and they've also said their piece tonight. And I'm not too sure if Riseboro is just gonna continue coming back. I'm not, if like we say no, but then if we say yes, and then things happen and of course, not too sure. But the point is that we just need to, I would like to put a motion on the floor to take a vote on the matter on whether or not, saying yes or no.
As the chair, you can call the vote. It doesn't take a motion.
Okay, yes, so so I'd just like everyone to vote on whether yes or no we should do we should allow the extended hours for the 37 Hillside Riseboro project.
And if I can add, to be clear, it's a letter of support for their request to ask for extended hours on Saturday, because we as the community board and as the Housing and Human Services Committee cannot say yes or no to Saturday. It's whether we're writing a letter of support. ultimately it's for the Department of Buildings to make that decision. So I just wanted to clarify that so everyone's clear, and also for the record.
Yes,
Over
thank
to you,
you.
Emily.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Exactly. So this is for a letter of support for the extended hours or after hours variance of the 37 Hillside Riseboro project. All right. So I'm going to do a roll call.
I'll take tally, Emily, while you do the roll call. Call me last.
Awesome. Okay, I'll call you last, and I'll call myself last. Okay. Bruce Robertson,
I'm gonna pass for the moment.
pass. Okay. Aisha,
I vote no.
no. Kimberly McCoy,
I vote no.
Michelle Lee, she's probably putting down.
I'm voting no.
Okay, voting no. Richard Allman,
No.
Jay Bice,
Yes.
yes. Coming back to Bruce
Yes.
and Marielle.
No.
And me, myself, Emily Marte, I say no. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
No.
6 no's.
No passes.
2
Yep. So
yes.
we have,
this-
it does not pass. So exactly. So we have 2 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 no's, no abstentions. So it does not pass.
Okay, so very sorry to Riseboro that this is happening again. And obviously, being that this is a community board, I can see how people are just, trying to represent the community if the community says no, but I also understand. I also understand how this project is very important. So yes, it's just unfortunate, but yes. So I don't know how to segue out of that. That sounds like
Can I make a comment, Emily? If
yes,
that's okay.
please.
Thank you. I mean, I think there's a point of just putting for the record, I think we can all agree the need for housing in our community. And we appreciate that. But I think there's also a balance between, the quality of life that our current residents have and the right to that. And so, finding that balance between, the two is tricky. But again, ultimately, it's for the Department of Buildings to make that decision, whether or not that variance will be granted. So thank you.
Thanks, Mario. Richard, not sure if that's a old hand, well, a hand
I've
from
been-
before.
I've been called an old hand before.
No, so sorry. So yes, I concur with what Marielle said. We do have people come forward to us, and I know that it's really complex for us as a committee to be like, oh, we don't have that jurisdiction, we don't have that authority, but we're just, buildings, whoever's doing a construction usually comes forward to the community board, to the committees, just so that they could get a letter of support. And we already had another organization come forward today in regards to that, because their funders actually requested. The funders say, what is the community on board for this project? So that's why, it won't stop here, y'all. People will still come forward to us and ask us for support. And we just have to hear from the community, or depending on the project and everything, that's how we make our decisions. So thank you, Riseboro, again, for joining us and just providing answers throughout the meeting, and for all who voted, and for the tenants that came. Okay.
Thank you very
Alright.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
For the opportunity once again.
Of course.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Good night.
Good night. Okay. Richard, do you have a comment?
Very briefly, I need to
Mhm.
leave early. I had a
Mhm.
7:30 work obligation tonight. I've put it off. It's time to get to that. If I can handle this on a phone, I will, but I'm not sure that I can.
Okay, do what you can, Richard.
Thanks, everyone.
Alrighty, thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, so now we move on to, so Mariel, we're gonna do the HPD in this part, right? We're not leaving it for old business?
It's a DOB. HPD, that's a little bit separate. The
Sorry,
alternate
for the
enforcement
buildings?
program.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry for
so,
that.
yep. So we'll turn it back over to Adriana. And again, thank you. It's a lot longer than we anticipated you being on the call. To talk
Okay.
about 705, 709 West 170th Street. So yeah, I guess we'll turn it over to you and then we can kind of have a similar process. But if we could time cap the conversation because it is quite late and we still have other agenda items. Thank you so much, Adriana.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to be brief. I finally was able to log in into my iPhone, so hopefully I won't get cut off anymore. But as far as those two buildings mentioned, they do have violations and they have not yet submitted the certificate of corrections. And until they do that, they cannot do any work in the building and they have a lot of summons. So if you are interested in finding out what exactly is going on to any building in that area, you can go to DOV now or go into the DOV portal. And on the bottom of the portal, it says building information. There's a link that is going to take you directly to that site where you can put the address of the building and it will tell you the violations that the building has. If the building has summons, if the building cannot continue with any construction, maybe because of complaints and someone that they have gotten, you can get all of that information available to you. So I can send Mariel the link so she can log in and show everybody in the community how to log in and look at the issues that the building may be having.
Okay, so one question about it. So you said that for 705 and 709 West 170th Street, that the only reason that it's still in disrepair is because they haven't submitted the required documents to repair?
They have a couple of summons and they have to submit a certificate of corrections in order for them to continue with the work that they were doing. They have too many, and because they haven't submitted, I believe it's when I look in the system, I believe this started like in the beginning of the year, and none of this has been corrected yet. So it has been a couple of months that the Department of Buildings have been waiting for the certificate of correction, and it hasn't been provided yet for both buildings.
All right, so I don't have any questions at the moment. Not sure, Aisha, if you have a comment about that.
I sure do. Okay, so to begin with, I want to understand the agency's responsibility where matters like this is concerned. And I think it's important for the community board to be aware of that so that we could serve as a watchdog. I think it's unfortunate that oftentimes there are buildings that are experiencing severe impacts like this. If I remember in previous years, we had the highest number of violations. And to speak to what one of the previous attendees stated, that unfortunately our complaints are the inverse. We have the least complaints, but the highest amount of violations. And so in that is the importance of people who are representatives to be the eyes and ears and speak for the people in our community who unfortunately may not be speaking for themselves. And also to urge the agencies and those who have influence and power to take action on behalf of our district. So I want to understand what are the rules that are in place in regards to what landlords are supposed to be doing. And I know that you're here to speak to the DOB aspect of it. And I know that there's a twofold separation between what HPD is responsible for and what DOB is responsible for. But along with what a landlord is required to do, then what is the agency required to do if the landlord is not negligent? You spoke about the certificate of correction, but what is the clock that DOB is supposed to honor when things are out of place? What are the allowances that the landlord has to comply? And when the landlord does not, then what does the agency do? I have witnessed in past years where the agencies, maybe HPD, maybe DOB, would become responsible to remediate those buildings so that they become habitable for the people who live there. I want to allow you to speak to that, but I can also share screen to show some of the conditions that the tenants in those buildings are experiencing. And I may not have access to them all because I didn't, honestly, I'm like running home. I didn't have time to pull it all together into one folder. And so I don't want to waste the committee's time trying to do that live. And I can definitely share that with the community. I mean, with the board. They could be published in minutes if necessary, but rats in the common areas, rats in the basement, overrun in the area where people dispose of their trash, which is it's a safety risk. It's a health risk to have that amount of rats throughout the building, in the back area of the building, climbing into windows. I have video of that, right? Where rats can also enter people's apartment from the walls. Electrical issues, the door. Now, I know these buildings intimately because I live across the street from them. I grew up in these buildings. These people in these buildings are friends. I know their children, their family members, their grandparents, even in these buildings. And they don't deserve to live like this. I've said this before on record. This is one of my favorite love stories because these people are taking care of each other in absence of the landlord doing so, which they're required. So, but homeless people have been living inside the building. The front door did not have a glass. The front door historically had a huge glass panel. It's a very wide door. I wish I would have taken the measurements or thought to do so that you could understand how big the glass is, which now has been replaced by a wood board. In my opinion, having the glass was a safety for the people in the building because it lets you know if somebody is in the hallway when you're coming in through the door. A woman has been accosted in the lobby of this building. Someone tried to choke her. I was outside with another neighbor of mine, Mike Hannell, some of you may know, where she screamed and we ran to her aid and he ended up chasing the man who was about to choke her in the lobby of that building. So having that glass instead of a wood panel, to me, is a matter of safety. But I wonder, I know on the HPD side of things, when you have an apartment and the apartment came a certain way and you sign your lease for that apartment, that is what the landlord is required to upkeep. So in this instance, are they to upkeep that glass panel as it was when they signed their lease? Because not only is it safety, but it also looks very unattractive right now. That's not what these people signed the lease for. So the safety, the homeless living in the building, leaks in the common area, exposed walls. I'm pretty sure that these buildings may be lead, possibly even asbestos risks when the paint is not upkept. So is it a lead risk? Is it an asbestos risk? And what is being done to address that the common areas are not in up to standard, up to code? And when does the agency take a step to act on behalf of those tenants so that they are not living in the conditions that they're living. I also know that there was a issue with the roof, bricks falling off of the roof as well. Concerns about whether the roof was in good condition, which is another issue. The boiler was flooded at one point where it was like almost up to your knees of water. And the neighbor, they had to go down into that boiler room, wading through the water in order to address an issue with the boiler. They have no heat and hot water. Often, I think maybe right now, they do. Some of them are on the line from what I understand. So they can also speak for themselves, but I just wanted to give the overview of what I have witnessed over time. So I will pause there.
Thanks, Aisha.
So if I may answer.
Yes, please.
So you can do a complaint to 311, but you can also reach out to us directly with pictures. We need to see pictures. If you are going to report, like, for example, electrical issues and wires hanging out, that's one issue that the Department of Building can step in and try to correct these problems. The flooding and the pain and all of the other issues that they have in, those are problems that the Department of Building can definitely jump in and try to make corrections with the landlord and get those problems fixed. As far as the RAD, they have to call the Department of Environmental and Protection and report the issues that they are having with the RAD, and they will send someone over there to also correct those problems. But if you're gonna send us pictures, please give us details of everything that is going on. Also, the glass that you said is replaced with a wood board. Also, send us pictures of all of that so we can have proof and send an inspector there so they can start talking to the landlord so he can do some corrections and fix some problems in that building. And I'm sorry to hear about all of these issues your community and these people in this building are going through.
Okay, thank you. But in all due respect, what I'm asking is, what are the standard rules that exist for what a landlord is required to do? Another thing that I didn't mention is not having a super for far too long, and then them sending maintenance workers that seem to not know what they're doing. One of the things that they did was attempted to fix a stairway. It's like a metal stairway that goes down to the basement, and it was in such malfunction that someone could have fell through one story just going to throw their garbage out, right? So the question is what are the rules that the landlord is supposed to be following to make sure that people are not living like this, right? Like, what are the rules for having a super present? What are the rules for working on the building, shoddy repairs? The lock for the front door was fixed, and then they themselves, the maintenance workers, broke the lock and replaced it with like a bathroom door lock, and then broke automatically, right? What are those rules? But then the most important part that I think from agency to agency, from Community Board 12 to DOB, is what is your responsibility? So you have repeatedly stated to us, oh, just file complaints, right? They already have. They've been filing complaints. I have pictures standing with Department of Buildings in front of this building. DOB has been to the building multiple times. The question that I'm asking is, what is the clock that DOB must adhere to in order to bring this to a livable condition? At what point? How long does the landlord get to not comply before DOB steps in and does something? Is the question.
Yes, so the steps that the landlord have to follow once they get a summons for not fixing the problems, they also have to go to court and face the judge. So it's a matter of the landlord bringing the certificate of correction to them, and many of them take too long to bring it and that caused them to continue getting summoned. So I don't know at what point HPD can step in and take the building away from the landlord because the problems are not being fixed. I am not sure about how far can a landlord go with all of these summons and all of these complaints and all of these tickets that they get for not fixing the problems. Then HPD will step in and take over the building. I do not know how much complaints that landlord have to have for them to take the building away if they are not fixing the problems that the tenants are having in the building. I can get back to you with that answer when I get back to the office and definitely get you answered and see and give you a correct answer for this. But they do get a lot of summon, like building 705 and 709 at 170. They have over $12,000 summon for each time that they don't provide the certificate of corrections.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you. Aisha, were you finished?
Yeah, I did want to share a few of the pictures that were just shared to me, if I can, so that
you can just send it to us since maybe they don't have a lot of time to show the picture. Send it to us and I directly gonna send it to my supervisor so she can
the purpose of sharing the pictures is not just for you but for the committee, but
okay.
also those members that are members of the community that are present as well, to have it on record as a part of this meeting. So, and I'll be quick. It's like 7 pictures, I believe.
Do you have co-host or did you send it to Mariella? Maybe she could put it on the screen or maybe.
Yeah, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Let me see.
Chanel, can you make Aisha co-host?
You should be able to share the screen now.
Okay, Aisha.
Thank you. Are you guys able to see that now?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you haven't shared the screen.
There you go.
Now, yeah.
So this is a picture of a man laying. And by the way, this is a small building. The 2 buildings are identical. I believe at one point they had the same owner, and I believe someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm on chat with some of them. Yeah, so anyway, the point is the 2 buildings are identical. It's a small walk up, no elevator. This is how people would need to get to their apartment or leave the building for that matter. And this man is laying in the, it's the same owner. This man is laying in the common area of the stairwell. This is the door that I was referencing so that you see how big it is. And basically they put this panel board and cut a hole into it for people to be able to see. When normally that would have been a glass panel. This is the front of the building. They've had to put cameras on the front of the building because of the amount of safety issues that existed. The first camera was broken and stolen, and they replaced it. These are things that the tenants are funding themselves. One tenant even told me at one point there were electrical issues, and she, out of her own pocket, spent a lot of money to fix those electrical issues. I was on a call with them yesterday. They are working with legal services, and there are advocates involved. I've spoken to the committee previously about opportunities for tenants in general to be able to take over buildings that are experiencing things such as this. They talked about that with them as well. I think in the future, we could have conversation about putting forth a resolution to support legislation that's actually in the works in order to make that easier reality, especially since previous legislation that allowed for that have changed and or either don't exist anymore. So I think it's something that we need to pick up specifically because of issues like this. And I also spoke to Met Council about coming to do a presentation about that very legislation. They seemed excited about that, so I can share that information with the chairs. So here's the example of the type of lock that they replaced this. This is not the standard lock that you would see on a front door of a building. And my understanding is that it is now broken.
Wow. No, these are not.
But
living
aside
conditions.
from that, I'm gonna, oh yeah, this is the heat and hot water complaints that they have made. So clearly this has been going on for a long time. There have been many complaints, which is why I say to the agency, when do we see action to prevent what they're experiencing? More than a year now.
Right. And I see in the comments that someone wrote running out of oil every 2 weeks is also a major issue. So, yeah, and I went into the AEP. So sorry, Aisha.
Sorry, really quick. There's also been feces smeared in the common area as well, and they've had to clean that themselves. And I'm pretty sure that I'm forgetting a lot of things at this moment. But it's just in 705, the septic of the building at one point was overflowing.
Oh no.
To where you could smell feces from the building from the sidewalk and throughout the block.
No.
So imagine if you lived in that building.
It's horrible.
This is the kind of negligence that this landlord is, because the landlord is an absentee landlord. They are in California, they're not here, and this is part of the reason why the building is falling into disrepair.
No.
So.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing, Aisha. And I wanted to know, Adriana, if this is the portal that you were referring to, that has like the buildings, like if you're looking for buildings that like the buildings.
No,
that
you
we're
can,
talking-
no, that's not it. Yeah, you
Okay.
can go to DOB portal.
Okay, DOB portal.
Yeah.
Emily,
Yeah, Jay?
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that's
say,
it. And you
um,
go on the bottom of the page, that link right there that says, yeah, that one, that will take you to the other side where you can actually get building information, the first link.
Okay.
And you can put here the borough, which is Manhattan, and then the address of the building.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just wanted to show that really quickly. And Jay, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say in the future, if you ever want to see like an entire building's portfolio, there's this thing called the DAP portal, DAP portal, that a nonprofit gets funding from the state, which basically has everything in one page where you just search the address, you can see the sales and financing, all the DOB and HPD violations, ECB violations, any litigation that's open, and it's easier to navigate. And they'll have links to like DOB property overview and things like that. So it's helpful for if anyone ever wants to like look at an overview of the entire building, right? I'm looking at 709 West 170th right now, and they've had over time 751 violations.
Wow.
356 of those are still open, and 90 of them are Class C. And Class C is basically anything that's hazardous and needs to be fixed within 24 hours.
Right.
I'm just gonna share really quick another set of images that was just sent to me.
Aisha,
Okay.
if we can send those to,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, thank you, just because it's already 9:05 and we still have another agenda item. But Thank you. And I think what we can do as a follow-up, well, firstly, let's make
Oh,
sure
cool.
that we have an opportunity. You can click through them while I'm
Mhm.
um
Oh, no.
have an opportunity for anyone in the public, particularly tenants who may be living, unfortunately, if they want to raise anything, follow what we can do is this information in an email provided to, and so she can follow up with her colleagues in terms of, answering some of those questions. But thank you, Aisha, especially
Thank
for
you.
sharing these photos.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in the public speaking. I did see that one comment that was written about the oils and not like running out of oil every 2 weeks. But nobody has spoken or raised their hands. So, but I'm pretty sure that Aisha spoke for them very well and displayed the conditions that they've been living in. And I really hope that I'm not quite sure what the procedure is with DOB.
So I believe somebody
Uh-huh.
is trying to talk. They just texted me. She says it doesn't allow her to
To
talk.
raise her hand.
Sikis. I don't know if her name is on the list.
Okay, let me put her on.
Yeah.
So Sikis,
There.
Yes.
there you go. So Sikis, if you could just unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you? I've been trying to like join in, but I can't see my face. I could only see 3 people, so
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happening. But I'm one of the tenants from 709, and we have been complaining. It's been years. It's been years. They used to fix our building like as soon as we called them, maybe 3, 4, well, right before the pandemic started, that's when they stopped. Something happened with management, with the landlord, that they suddenly just stopped answering our calls. They fill up the boiler to only 300 gallons. The boiler takes, I believe, is 1,200. I'm not sure. They put very little that it only lasts about a week or two. So right now we didn't during Thanksgiving break we didn't have heat or hot water. We were freezing. We emailed them, we called them. They purposely ignored us. They even went as far as shutting off one of the emails so that we couldn't communicate with them anymore. It's just been insane. And I don't know how many times we've already put in complaints with 311. One time the fire department had to come in here because the front door of the wooden door that was broken. We couldn't get out. We had to call the fire department. They broke that whole it's just been bad. The homeless people come in, they poop and pee all over the building, and it's been years already. It's been years and we don't know what to do because we complain. The HPD, they come, they take pictures, they write their notes, and that's as far as it goes. Nothing ever happens. And our main concern is, especially now that winter is here, the heat and hot water. We have the entire both buildings have elderly people. A few of them have cancer. Some have drains because of surgery. And it's just like we don't know what to do. We just need something that when we complain about the heat and hot water, they can come right away and help us with that. Because they leave us a week and a half without heat and hot water. Yes, we need repairs, but mainly is the heat and hot water, the constant battle right now.
And it's cold outside.
And it's not even right now, it's not even that cold. Like it's gonna drop. Last year we were in 20-degree weather with no heat and hot water for a week and a half. And this is every time that there's no heat, it lasts days. It's not a one-day thing. It's like a 1 or 2 week thing with elderly people living here, little kids. It's just bad.
They haven't even paid for their own oil at one point.
We pay for our own oil at one point. We're the ones that do everything. We pay for everything. We're the ones that replace the lock on the wooden door because we kept complaining. The homeless people kept coming in. We all chipped in. We paid for the lock. The lock got broken, I believe, by management because there was no way that lock would have gotten broken. They replaced it with the doorknob for the bathroom. That got broken right away. So then we all had to chip in again and buy another lock, all the cameras that we have, we're the ones that have paid for it. We clean the building, like the elderly people are, you see them mopping the building, you see them like trying to clean the basement as much as we can, because as soon as we go downstairs, there's rats. It's not regular. Yeah, we grew up in New York City. We know that there's rats, but it's bombarded with rats that we can't even go down the stairs because they just come out. Like, I'm talking about like 10, 15 rats. And I'm not even exaggerating. I have pictures that I could send you guys.
Which affects the entire block as well.
And it smells like as soon as you walk in through this block 170th between Haven and Fort Washington, it stinks like rat feces, rat pee. It's just nasty. It stinks.
Please, can you send us all of those pictures? Just send it directly to me, and I'm gonna have them with my supervisor and also the deputy commissioner to go over this. Now I'm gonna make it my personal business because nobody deserves to live like this.
Thank you.
It's horrible. Thank you so much. I'll send you everything that I have. It's insane.
So tomorrow, as soon as I get, I'm gonna have a meeting with my director and also ask the deputy commissioner if he can join us, because that building needs to be taken away from these landlords because he's ignoring everything that
it's both buildings. They're both owned by the same landlord. 705 and 709 are both owned by the same landlords. That's the outside. We don't even want to talk about the inside of the apartments, of how these apartments are. My apartment is not as bad just because I pay people to, like, whenever I see a hole or anything, they come. But the rest of these apartments, like, ceilings are falling. A ceiling fell on a child. Luckily, a ceiling fell on a child. There's toilets that are like hanging off from the wall. Open wall, like literally open walls, like you can see the inside, you can see the pipes. It's just bad. It's not even bad. I can't even say it's bad. It's beyond bad.
Yes, I understand your concern, and it's horrible, and I am so sorry about that. So tomorrow when I get to the office, as soon as I receive all of your pictures, I'm gonna just send it to my supervisor and ask her if she can have a meeting with me and the deputy commissioner so they can correct these problems and find a solution to these problems ASAP.
Okay, thank you. I just need your contact information because I'm not able for some reason to see the chats with the links of everything that you guys have posted. So I'll just need your email so that I can send you all the pictures. I'm sorry?
I'll get it for you, Sikis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria.
Oswaldo is also a tenant of the building. He's raising his hand. Oswaldo Cardoso.
Yes, if we could have Oswaldo speak, and then if we could move on to the next item on the agenda. But it sounds like we have a plan in place for next steps for follow-up.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Oswaldo.
Okay, Siki, thank you again for that. I'm a tenant from 705, and clearly the landlord doesn't want us here. So obviously they don't want to make any repairs. And it got to a point where one of the tenants had the conversation with management, and they'd rather have the city make the fixes on the apartments or the things that needs to be done instead of them doing it. So clearly they have a plan. I don't know what's the whole point of having, we have empty apartments over here. Aisha just showed the last pictures. Those pictures are empty apartments, and those apartments sometimes have leaks, and that affects other tenants that live below it. You know, we had an incident where on apartment 32, literally she had a hole that she could have looked up all the way to the fourth floor, and that hole was there for almost 6 months. And they decided, no, we're not going to fix it. Let's have the city fix it. But then again, when dealing with the city, it takes a lot of work, a lot of open calls, and it just takes forever. So Adriana, I'm hoping that you could just see the issue that we have, and we literally don't have no super. So I'm hoping that you could, open your heart, and hopefully this could be escalated to the next level to where the city just takes over, because this is unfair. Coming home from work, not knowing if there's going to be hot water. 709 had it even worse because of Thanksgiving. They had to spend the whole Thanksgiving, no heat, no hot water. So imagine you have family members coming in, have little kids, and it's just unfair. And they're getting fined. And I don't know what's the city doing, because I don't know if they're collecting the money from them or are they actually paying? And I don't think that's anything's being done. So hopefully I'm willing to share my pictures as well, Adriana, and I'm hoping that from
Yes,
this
yes.
meeting, things can be done.
Yes, yes, please. I'm definitely gonna take action on this matter.
Yes, and thank you both for sharing, Sikis and Oswaldo. This is very unfortunate. It sounds like a nightmare. It is a nightmare. And I
Yeah.
really do hope that DOP, HPD, any agency that needs to get involved actually addresses this. This is not living conditions. It's unacceptable. And I did go into the AEP website, which is the initial website that Jay told me like no, and then you guys switched me to the other one. But for the AEP or alternate enforcement program, I did go into the portal and I do see 705, but I do not see 709. I'm not sure if I'm not looking at this properly, but if they aren't in the program, I don't know if things change for that building.
You are correct.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means if they're not in the AEP data portal for 709, but they should be considered as well. I'm pretty sure that tenants spoke from both buildings in regards to the conditions that they're living in. So that's just something that I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, 709 is not in the AEP program
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
And also the warehousing, I think that may fall more on HPD, but there's definitely, I think I know of at least 4 apartments, many that have been empty for about 10 years. And I know that people have went to apply to live in those apartments and have been told all different stories why the apartment is not being rented.
See. So yes, just yeah, go ahead, Jay, and then we're gonna move on just because we have
I mean, I've seen this before, and I think when the agencies don't respond the way you need them to respond, the best way to get them to respond is to go to your elected officials, make them do a press conference on the conditions of this building. And just like that, everyone will pay attention. This happens a lot in the Bronx.
Yes, yes, that helps too.
Yes. So again, thank you, Adriana, for listening, and hopefully something can be done very quickly, especially as the temperature drops. Time is of the essence. And thank you, Sikis and Oswaldo. I see Sikis, you have your hand up just very quickly.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for hearing us out. Just very brief, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sikis. And any closing comments, Adriana? I know I asked you, Aisha, you have a comment, and then I'll.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I know I keep saying in previous years, but here I go again. In previous years, this committee has talked in depth about what is happening at both DOB and HPD, about changes that we might be able to suggest to the agencies for how they operate, specifically in regards to how our districts, our communities, the residents are handled, and how the landlords have more weight. Things are weighed more heavily on their side. And I know that that's not the intention of the agency, at least I don't think so. However, the way that things are handled, this is the types of things that these are the outcomes. Because if you heard in some of the conversation, in both instances, the certifications and the compliance, and as the landlord pays X amount and all of these things, but meanwhile you have all of these complaints piling up, hundreds and hundreds of complaints from the tenants that are crying out for help. Something needs to change with that dynamic as far as action on behalf of the people that are living in these buildings. It's a matter of life and death. We know that, we have seen it in the buildings in our own district, things falling into disrepair, how it can put people in harm's way. So I just want us to hopefully in a future meeting, take action to sit down and have a discussion about DOB and HPD and how we can make suggestions for changes that we would like to see for our community.
Yes, thank you.
So I can bring that on to my supervisor and see what can they do about that. That's a good suggestion.
Thank you, Aisha. Thanks. All right, so we are going to move on just so that we could address the other agenda items. Thank you all to who participated in this particular agenda item with the two buildings 705, 709. And if you have any closing comments, Adriana?
Yes, so please also get involved with your elected officials. They also have a big power on these people in city agencies. So it's very important that they are aware of what is going on in your district so they can also take part, because that's what they're there for. That's why we select them, so they can help us when we have issues like this. But as far as the problem that 705 and 709 have, please send me the emails with the pictures so I can show them, because we don't have any pictures with these two buildings, and this really make a big difference if they see the condition in which everybody is living in those two buildings. So if you can, first thing in the morning, send me those emails. As soon as I get to my office, I'm gonna just provide it to my supervisor and talk to her and see if we can involve the deputy commissioner and the commissioner as well to solve these problems, okay?
Okay, we'll work on it tonight so that we can get it to you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Adriana. I'll
Thank
share your
you,
information.
Adriana.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next agenda item, and I believe I can pass it on to you, Marielle. Is this for the old business?
I'm sorry, real quick, I just want to say, Oswald, I answered your question. It's the DAB portal, and I put the website on the answer.
Thank you, I saw that.
Oh, if I might be able to quickly, yes, I love that portal. There's also another website. I'm gonna try to pull it up on my phone now, but it actually collects the DAP portal and two other sites, as well as the HPD and the DOB sites, and pulls it all together so that you can like be in one place and click into all of them and get all of the data relevant to, you know, the specific buildings, including the entire portfolio that a landlord may own, so that you can see. For us as a committee, I think it's fantastic because you can look at it and say, this landlord is problematic, and then see, oh, wow, they own 10 buildings in our district, and then immediately see what else is happening in those other buildings. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so thank you so much, you guys, for sharing that, the DAP portal. Everybody take notes. All right, so now I'm going to pass it on to Marielle for old business.
Sounds good. Thank you, Emily. And thank you for everyone. If you see me bouncing my legs, it's because I have my baby on my lap. She's not wanting to sleep. She's just as involved in the conversation as we are tonight. So under old business, I understand that at the November meeting, which I was unable to attend, but I did watch the recording. The committee discussed the public hearing regarding the use of space at the Fort Washington Armory. And so I wanted to just spend a little bit of time discussing that. We do not have a date yet for that. But we would like to, kind of following up on the discussion that was had at the last meeting, start kind of jotting down some ideas in terms of what that could look like. I know some of the initial ideas obviously would be to invite all relevant stakeholders, so those that were named on the resolution, in terms of the elected officials and the relevant agencies. But I also know that there were some suggestions regarding possibly inviting experts that focus on the uses of community spaces. And I believe, Aisha, you have kind of talked about a few experts that you wanted to recommend to possibly attend such a forum. In addition to that, I think it would be helpful for us to also spend a few minutes just talking about what it could look like. So what would the format of it be? Would it be a panel discussion, and then kind of open to the community for comments and thoughts? And how we can think about the type of programming that can happen in that space. So just wanted to spend a few minutes on that, and I'll kind of leave it open, recognizing the time. It is 9:25 p.m. It is late. If we could please keep our comments succinct into the questions that I asked, specific to the public forum for now, that would be really helpful. And then we can talk about how to move that forward for the next meeting. Aisha, please
Sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, so as many of you know, this is definitely one of my primary issues on the board. This issue was the first resolution that I ever penned for Community Board 12, which was to address this matter. That was 8 years ago. I do have ideas of who we should have present at a public hearing and who we should be engaging. I had a very in-depth conversation with our current first vice, Kathy, in regards to this matter, amongst other things. And I just want to reiterate the same thing that I said earlier to the committee, which is that the easiest way to give up power is to believe that you don't have any. And I think that that applies to this matter as well, because some of the ruminations on this board are pushing in the direction of it's not really our job. What I push up to the committee, if it isn't our job, then whose job is it? And why weren't they doing that job over the course of maybe decades where this building is concerned? The top 5 people in that building were making $1 million a year while neglecting our community to engage and have our residents in that building in a way that's impactful, in a way that a building that is the size of that building could be used and is used in other places throughout our city or in the country for that matter, that it could have been servicing our community. So I believe people in the public health field, city planners, programmers, people who do programming in all areas, whether it be youth, senior programming that could benefit from space. I think we should be looking at our statement of district needs, the things that over the years that we ourselves, our board and our district manager puts together on an annual basis to say, here's what we need, and look to that for what things need space, like this building. And maybe lean towards people who are experts in those areas to have that, to be a part of that conversation. I think the stakeholders of our district, those that are involved in running programming, the elected officials, obviously, the agencies that had purview in this matter, specifically the agencies that were responsible to this building and the neglect that took place over the years, but definitely those in our government that oversee matters such as this, whether it be procurement, whether it be contract agreements, like the Department of Law, for instance, the representatives from our city council who sit on the committee that's relevant to such a matter as this as well. Because ultimately, if there's changes that needs to be made legislatively, then they would be the ones pushing that forward or establishing the language for that to go through the council. That's a beginning point for me. And the resolution outlines some of that. I think that together we did a really good job of putting together a statement that says what we're looking to see happen.
Let me see. I was trying to pull up the resolution. I was looking at it earlier, but my eyes fail me at this time. But I did want to hear more on like specific, maybe you wanted to mention specific elected officials for the agencies. I know having Department of Homeless Services and
Parks.
Parks. Who else?
Parks, Department of Homeless Services. Those are relevant because of the way the contract is written. The contract states that Department of Homeless Services is the agency that has ultimate governance over the building. That is because of the history of the building. It at one point was an official armory and it was military based. And then it got passed to the Department of Homeless Services because there was a shelter that used to be there until the shelter rules changed from it being allowed to have like 1,000 people in that building when I was young to only being 200. And then they had to figure out what to do with the rest of the building. So, but they remained the stewards of the building, but somewhere along the line, that responsibility, not officially, but in spirit, was passed off to the Armory Foundation, but the contract does not say that that should have been the case.
And then in terms of agencies, this is all in the resolution, like you guys already laid out in detail who would be in a hearing or a discussion.
Not specific people, but
some of it is, but yeah, to Aisha's point, yep. Go ahead, Aisha.
Yeah, some of it is in regards to like the elected officials. At that point, it was different people. So now it would be the people that sit in those seats now. But in regards to community stakeholders being specified, as well as experts, those are what's open. I think we should also have what is the name of the organization that is also a representative of neighborhoods? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Is it NIMIC?
Not NIMIC. They're kind of like, they're not like community board, but they're like, there's a parody.
Neighborhood advisory boards, the NABs?
Neighborhood advisory boards. I believe that in the resolution, we may have named them as participants.
Sorry, I'm nodding as I can't recall off the top of my head. I'm just, my head's like this because I'm trying to get my daughter to sleep. Thank you, Aisha. I wonder, just want to kind of give a moment to see if any other committee members have any thoughts briefly. And then just if we can spend a few minutes on the actual structure. What? I'm not sure why the recording stopped. It says that we're still live on YouTube.
She ran out of tape.
Oh, wait, that happens?
Chanel.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was like,
this is a long meeting.
I believed you, Bruce.
Wait, hold on.
Chanel, sorry. Can you check?
Okay, there.
Thank you. And just again, it's 9:33. If we could please wrap up this meeting in the next 15 minutes, that would be great. Recognizing that obviously there's some work for us to do. And so my point was, before the recording stopped, was I'd like to take a moment and see if there are any other committee members who want to add to what Aisha has just shared. But more specifically, if you have any thoughts on the actual format. So, you know, would it be, for instance, like I said, maybe something starting off with the panel? Maybe it's, a panel with some of these stakeholders speaking, and then it opens up to open forum. What would that look like? What's, that's, I think, what I'm interested in finding out more, because that's something that we can help shape.
For me, I actually, the only thing I could think of is a panel if we're going to have all of these players or persons like talking here. But like, I can't imagine it any other way. but I would like there to be, like, the community definitely has to be present, all the community organizations. I'm not sure who else would be interested in using the space and like how, but just making sure that communities know that we're having this hearing is actually the most important part, aside from having everyone here, because that would just show like all the ways that we could use the space aside from how we're using it now, which is the point.
Agreed.
Correct. And so I wonder if, and I do see Michelle, your hand up. I wonder if maybe, and this is kind of an idea, and we can obviously continue to shape it together as a committee. I've seen this in kind of other events and conferences that I've been to, where there's a lot of different stakeholders involved, but we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to say, you know, what they need to say. And so I wonder if there's a bit about maybe giving each of the different stakeholders or putting them in groups or buckets, so to speak. So the electeds, city agencies, community organizations, you know, so on and so forth, giving them maybe, again, very much off the top of my head, I haven't really thought any of this through, and welcome feedback, 10, 15 minutes each. So it's quick and kind of they say, you know, they each say what they need to say, and then opening it up to kind of a more collaborative discussion where it's kind of a back and forth in a collaborative and respectful manner with the community, where the community can then ask questions to all of those that, you know, kind of gave their quote unquote pitch or their thoughts. And I think coming out of that, what would be the action steps? I think that's really important. It's great to have a forum. These things are wonderful, but what's next? So, you know, how do we then follow up with what are the recommendations that have come out of that, and how then is that implemented? So Michelle, over to you.
Yeah, Marielle, that sounds really good. I think it needs to be really structured for us to get something out of it. Otherwise, it's a huge group of electeds and you know, members of the community can get a little hectic. So I think just having maybe some pre-written questions that folks from the community board even have for them. And then of course, folks from the community can ask whatever they want. I think it's really important for it to have like a hybrid or at least some Zoom component for folks who are not able to attend in person. And that was the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I did also think about having hybrid is definitely something that we need. Okay. And Kimberly? And then
Hi, so I was thinking, I know that sometimes, so I was thinking about what Keith and Michael were saying about how the community doesn't speak. And I don't always agree with that. If there's only two people that are talking, then that might be something that bothers them. And oftentimes when you don't hear from other people, it's because they don't know how to. So maybe if we can tell them, you know, look, if there's a problem that you're having, maybe we could form them. What's your problem? What do you want to see done? Maybe if we can have them sort of like, so they can think about how to say this in a succinct way, because of course they're angry and they're frustrated about whatever it is. But if we can give them a way to sort of put it in a manner so that it can get, you know, addressed by these stakeholders that we're going, then at least it's moving towards something. Because I don't believe that if only two people are speaking, it's because the others don't want to speak. Like, I don't like that idea at all.
That's a really great point. And I think that goes to Emily's suggestion earlier, which is something that we need to do regardless, is make sure that once we do have the date that we are out in full force and kind of really informing all stakeholders and all community members about this opportunity to come and share their thoughts and, you know, how would they envision the use of the space and do it with plenty of time. And to Michelle's point, yes, hybrid. Yeah. And I'll take, I guess, I see Aisha, you have your hand up. I'm jotting some of this down. I wonder if I'm kind of, I can put together maybe some kind of a concept note of what this could look like based on, you know, what we discuss here. And it's something that we can kind of continue to work on together. during each meeting until we're able to secure that date. Aisha?
So I want to first say, I love your idea of putting the buckets and having them sectioned off. I think that would make it very organized and it would give perspective to the meeting, and then being able to field questions. I think that's an excellent way of structuring the public hearing. I also feel like we should have like a save the date off into the future. And then once we know what that is, it'll make it easier to engage those stakeholders as well as experts to say, we're going to have this conversation. This is the goal of it. Give them the context of it so that they have that understanding and, know when we would expect their participation.
I also, yes, I agree with that. And most importantly is the follow-up, like after all of this, after the hearing, how the implementation is going to happen. But I guess that's just going to be determined on that day, just because, I mean, that's the part that worries me. I mean, I think that's just me anticipating, but the follow-up is definitely very important, not just have the hearing and then that's it. So
as far as participation, I'm going to go ahead and volunteer myself. In the original meetings about the Fort Washington Armory, I used technology to promote what was happening at those meetings. We had people standing in the lobby at the CB12 offices that couldn't get upstairs because the hallway was filled, the room was filled. Steve Simon had to give up what would have normally been his space to hold the meeting and swap and use the Housing and Human Services space because of how big the meeting grew. I intend to do that and engage the community again in that same fashion because it's that important.
For sure. Thanks so much, Aisha. I do want to take a moment to see if anyone from the audience has a comment. I don't think I see anything in the
me neither.
No, I don't see a hand raised. Okay. I guess, well then, with that said, it sounds like we have our kind of next steps, so to speak. I'll go ahead and kind of put this together in a concept note, again, that we can continue to refine over the next coming meetings. And what I'll do is I'll section it off in the concept note. What does the communications plan look like? So for instance, Aisha, your point about save the dates, and then, the follow-up on that, the actual mechanics of the meeting, as Michelle mentioned, that it needs to be hybrid, which I completely agree, and all of those bits and pieces, and we can work on that together. So moving on, there was, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I think the other bit of old business was about the alternate enforcement program with HPD. And it was just to inform you all that Emily and I are back in touch with HPD with a contact there within the alternate enforcement program. And we're looking to have, hopefully, they confirm, a representative join us in January, again, to be confirmed, to talk about the program, in particular, the buildings in our district that fall within the alternate enforcement program. So stay tuned. And then there was an item, sorry, I'll pause there to see if there are any questions or points on that. It was just an update that we wanted to provide you so everyone knows what's going on. Okay. And then there's a point under new business, which you'll see it's listed as International Human Rights Resolution. I'll talk about it briefly, and then we'll share again a slight update for all of you. One, so December 10th is International Human Rights Day. I think some of you know what I do by day. And so I'm, kind of very much in the kind of, international affairs space and so on. And I think it's really important to localize a lot of the things that are happening at the UN and really have that be applicable to what's happening right here in our own backyard. And that's something that I think a lot of people who may not be in the space as familiar sometimes may feel, oh, well, it doesn't apply to me here in New York. It only applies to, people in that country or people over there, people in this part of the world. And that's definitely not the case. The UN is applicable everywhere. And so the point of the resolution is to really encourage community boards, but all forms of government, from hyperlocal like us at the community board level to our members of Congress, to really think about placing things through the lens of a human rights perspective, but also through what's known as the Sustainable Development Goals. And so these are 17 goals that were adopted by the United Nations in 2015. And really their aim is to address extreme poverty, but also build a more just and sustainable world, reducing inequalities, recognizing that no one should be left behind, and how do we bring all people to the table. Unfortunately, we're very far behind from our targets. So the aim is to address a lot of these things through targets by 2030. But unfortunately, we're quite behind. So point being, initially, I wanted to introduce it here for the committee to consider. But I recognize that obviously it's much larger than that, and much larger than what this committee does. And so I'm going to present it to the executive committee for their consideration. And if it passes, then it will obviously go to the general board for the entire board's consideration. So I just wanted to flag that and share that with you. Not sure if there's any comments on that. Okay, if it's not. Go ahead, Aisha.
Yeah, so I'm slightly familiar with those goals. Is it possible you're going to do a presentation on it in the future?
So I wanted to present the resolution. I drafted something, and so it probably needs some work, and then would definitely appreciate feedback. I guess the slight, I guess not pressure, but time thing is that it would be great if it could be done in December, recognizing that, like I said, December 10th is International Human Rights Day, and that's right around the corner. But please go ahead to your point.
Oh, so are you going to be presenting it at exec?
I think that's probably best, because it's not just specific to housing and human services. It's something that cuts across all areas. It cuts across things of public safety. The Sustainable Development Goals cut across peace and security, development, which looks like a lot of different things, but also human rights.
Absolutely. That's excellent. If possible, can maybe it be presented with context of how our business on the district level can fit into those goals?
For sure. Great minds think alike. So there is actually a resolution. There's a House resolution in Congress that addresses the Sustainable Development Goals. And the New York City Office for International Affairs actually was one of the first cities in the world, I believe. I know definitely for sure in the United States, but I believe also in the world, to actually take the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and localize it and say, okay, these 17 goals that, here we have all of these countries talking about at the United Nations. What does that look like for everyday New Yorkers? And so there's a lot of work that's happening. And so it's kind of giving more light to that. But yeah, for sure.
Looking forward.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd be willing to help. So not sure what the rules are, but if you could share the document.
Yes. Yeah. I have a draft. It's very rough. It needs some work. But,
yeah. I'll help.
Thank you. That's it from me, and I think that was all on the agenda, unless anyone else has any other new business.
I have no business.
Okay.
So it's new business, but it's slightly old because I did speak on it at the general meeting. And it's in relation to fires that have been happening in our district. I feel like we need to definitely pick up the issue of how fires are manifesting. And I know that it usually falls in the bucket of either public safety or health and environment. There's a aspect of health and environment that deals with functions of the fire department, but it may be not necessarily when it is a fire. I think fire falls under public safety, but being that these fires are happening within the housing in our district, there's definitely a place for us to give voice. As I mentioned when we talked about priorities for the committee, the codes and how landlords are required to adhere or not to the existing code is something that we can discuss. But I also am interested to know about advocacy for the residents in those buildings, which falls under the human services aspect of our committee, which I believe over the years we haven't given enough weight to human services as could be and as probably is necessary. So what happens when, families experience fire? What kind of supports exist? What are the organizations and agencies that participate? What are the timelines? So the reason why I bring those up is because I've seen across multiple fires in our district, people are given 72 hours in a hotel, and then they kind of got to figure it out for themselves. And just imagine how difficult that may be when you've lost everything and you're displaced. The building specifically that I'm referencing right now is 220 Audubon. However, we did hear in the general meeting that just a couple weeks before that building had a fire, another building in our district also had a fire. And I got a call a few days ago where the landlord of 220 Audubon on Thanksgiving morning called the tenants of that building to tell them they had 72 hours to try to salvage anything in those apartments, which first of all, on Thanksgiving morning is like without any care, without any heart. While, obviously they're not even in their own home for Thanksgiving, but now to have the concern of how they're going to get their things out of the building, and come to find out the elevator is not even working in the building. So how some of the family that I was speaking to, they live on the 6th floor. How are they supposed to go and try to salvage their belongings with no elevator? So I did reach out to Carmen De La Rosa's office. I spoke to her, I believe it's her chief of staff, Jamila, am I correct? And we had a conversation about what's going on there, and I connected her to the tenants. I did try to text them to see any updates for that, but just that lens, looking at that's the experience of some people experiencing fire, is not something that sits well with me. So if we can learn more about that and weigh in and advocate for tenants in our district that are experiencing these types of things, I think that would be appropriate and good.
Yes, we'll take note of that. Definitely really important. Fires all around Manhattan, the Bronx, it's an issue. So definitely. And then Jay?
Yeah, just I wasn't sure what the result was. This that rat proposal thing that CB4 came to us with. I don't know if that was something we were supposed to discuss.
Right. So that's for I was going to mention it in the beginning, but then I forgot about, because I did the Sally like moment of silence, then it just slipped my mind. I was supposed to mention it before. Thanks for bringing it up. So that's something I really wanted to talk about. We're still waiting to hear back from Steve, because we are going to collaborate, the chair from Health and Environment Committee, on how we could support in this matter collaboratively. So I just ask everyone to read up on the letter if they haven't. The one that I sent, I'll resend it again, just so that you see the details on how CB4 really wants to just keep tabs on Department of Sanitation with this bill, and it just not be a bill that's never followed up on. So just read up on that, and then we'll wait to hear from Steve so that we could have a more cohesive decision. in the end. And Marielle, not sure if you wanted to add something to that.
Nope, that's exactly it. We're just waiting on Steve.
Okay, and yeah, that's it.
I definitely thought of that when we heard from the tenants in regards to
Mhm,
the rats in their building today.
mhm. Yes, so it's a really important issue. Just read up on the document and then we'll see how we collaborate with the other community boards and other committees in our community board when we do this. Okay. Okay, anything else for new business, y'all? The only thing that I have is that We Act for Environmental Justice is having their final membership meeting for 2022 this Saturday, December 3rd at 10 a.m. It'll be in person. They haven't had an in-person thing in a very long time. It'll be at Most Worship Prince Hall Grand Lodge, 454 West 155th Street in Harlem. So if you're interested, definitely go join to this community membership meeting. It'll be fun. And that would be it from me. Anyone else? Okay. So I call, if nobody has anything else to say, I call this meeting to adjournment. Is that how it's properly said? So sorry. Anyone want to second that?
I second.
Aw, great job, everyone. It's 9:56 p.m. for those who are going to be looking at the YouTube. 9:56 p.m. we adjourn this meeting. Thank you all who contributed to the Housing and Human Services Committee meeting. Very helpful. And we'll follow up with each other.
Great meeting.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good night.
Everyone.